Hello all. In this session I am giving a short lecture on topic called as swapping. So in this session we are discussing about different topics related to swapping. So I am discussing about what is swapping, what is the need of swapping, the steps involved in swapping, an example for swapping, and finally advantage and disadvantage of swapping. So what do you mean by swapping? So swapping is a memory management scheme that allows operating system to move temporarily processes from primary memory to secondary memory and secondary memory to primary memory. In swapping, what happens means processes are moved from primary memory to secondary memory or secondary memory to primary memory. So next we have to discuss what is the need of swapping, why swapping has to be performed. So as we know, there are two types of memory, primary memory and secondary memory. So when you compare the storage capacity of primary memory and secondary memory, the storage capacity of primary memory is less, whereas the storage capacity of secondary memory is more. Primary memory is expensive, whereas secondary memory is less expensive as compared when you are comparing with the primary memory. But the program has to be ultimately executed, those programs has to be or the processes has to be stored in primary memory. CPU has only direct access to primary memory. So there might be a scenario where RAM is full, primary memory or RAM is full, and there might be some process waiting in the secondary memory or hard disk which want to execute, but the primary memory is full. Okay, in such scenario, what happens means, what we will do means, the process which is present in the main memory or the idle process which is not under execution, which is present in the main memory, we will move towards the secondary memory, and the process which is waiting in the secondary memory for execution is brought it into main memory. So this is the purpose of doing swapping. So there are mainly two steps involved in swapping. One is called as swap in, another is called as swap out. Swap in means we are sending process from secondary memory to main memory, whereas swap out means we are sending process from main memory to secondary memory. So these are the two steps involved in swapping, swap in and swap out. Swap in means bringing process from secondary memory to primary memory, and swap out means sending process from main memory to secondary memory. So these two steps will accomplish the swapping process. Either you can swap from main memory to secondary memory or secondary memory to main memory. So you can see the swapping process with the help of diagram. Okay, so you can see there is main memory and there is a backing store which is a secondary memory. So the main memory is divided into two parts, I can tell, means main memory consists of operating system as well as user space. So user space contains different kinds of processes. Okay, so here there are two processes are there, one is process 1 and process 2. So process 1 is swapped out process, whereas process 2 we will swap in, which means that process P1 was previously present in main memory, which we will swap to backing store, and process P2 which is in backing store, which will move to main memory. So this is the example for swapping. Okay, so you can observe the process P1 which was in main memory, we have sent it to backing store or secondary memory, and process 2 which is in backing store, we have moved it into main memory. Next we have to discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of swapping. So swapping has got advantages as well as disadvantages. So what are the advantages of swapping? So first advantage of swapping is it offers a high degree of multi-programming. So what do you mean by multi-programming? Multi-programming means we are not keeping a single programming in main memory, we are keeping many programs in main memory, so that our main memory contains many programs. Okay, So that is the concept of multi-programming. So next, what is the second advantage? The second advantage is swapping allows better memory management and efficient utilization of RAM, which means that we will keep always CPU busy. Keeping CPU busy means since we are keeping multiple programs in main memory, CPU will be always in a busy state, means it is always try to execute the process, so that we will not keep a CPU idle. So CPU always has to execute some or the other process. So that is how we will achieve efficient utilization of RAM. Okay. Next, with this swapping process, any process which is present in hard disk and which need to execute, okay, will ultimately get the main memory, because even though in some scenario if RAM is full, there might be some process which is waiting in hard disk and which want to execute. What we will do means we will remove idle process from the main memory and we will swap to the secondary memory, so that the process which is waiting for main memory due to lack of space in main memory will ultimately get the space. So thus swapping ensures proper memory availability for every process that needs to be executed. So these are the three advantages of swapping. Next, the disadvantage of swapping are, there are mainly two disadvantages. One is it involves disk access. As you know, we are accessing disk in swapping. We have to transfer from memory to disk. So what happens means disk access is comparatively slower process. It consumes more time. So that is the one of the disadvantages associated with the swapping. It involves disk access and it is little bit slower process compared to main memory access. And second disadvantage is excessive swapping leads to a phenomenon called as thrashing. So what happens in thrashing means we are mainly dealing with the moving process from main memory to main memory to secondary memory and secondary memory to main memory. Okay, so CPU is not performing execution, only the swapping happens constantly, which result in non-execution of the process, only swapping happens. This process is called as thrashing. So thus in this short lecture we have discussed about a different concept related to swapping. Thank you.